Well, thanks everyone for joining, and welcome to today's webinar, Preparing for Success, Immigration and Banking Advice for International Students in Canada. My name is Riley Cohen. I'm the CEO of CanadaVisa, and I'm very excited to welcome you to this co-hosted webinar brought to you by CanadaVisa and TD Bank. This webinar will start with a presentation by TD on managing finances and navigating the Canadian banking system. Our presenter from TD is Gurpreet Broka. Gurpreet is a proud immigrant living in Sudbury since 2015. He came to Canada as an international student and has been a strong advocate of multiculturalism and diversity in the greater city of Sudbury ever since. Gurpreet joined TD in 2017 as a customer experience associate, and since then has become a branch leader. Volunteering is his strongest passion, and serving the community is what he loves. Not only is he a chair of Greater Sudbury Police Services Chiefs Diversity Advisory Committee, he's also an avid advocate for newcomers to Canada settlement initiatives in the city of Greater Sudbury. Since good financial well-being leads to good mental health, Gurpreet is looking forward to presenting in this International Student Financial Literacy session. So thank you so much, Gurpreet, for joining us. We really appreciate having you here. After Gurpreet presents, Olivia Cohen will present, who is an immigration lawyer and head of immigration strategy at CanadaVisa, and she'll present on practical immigration advice to support your journey to Canada. We're going to have ample time at the end of the webinar for a question and answer period, so we encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation in chat. But please remember that the chat is public, so do not share any personal information, such as your phone number or email in the chat. These messages will be removed. Amazing. So once again, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to start with Gurpreet's presentation right now. So the slide should be on the screen. And Gurpreet, please.
Thank you, Riley. Thanks to CanadaVisa for the amazing opportunity, and welcome everybody for this wonderful once in a lifetime, I would say, kind of a webinar, because when you arrive in Canada, your life definitely takes a big turn, and it's for the good. And as we all call Canada is a land of opportunities, I think we're using this platform to cater to you those things that you will probably need when you arrive first in Canada. One of which is a big thing is banking needs. And I'm really happy and proud to be representing TD Canada Trust, the TD Bank, one of the largest banks in North America, and also one of the very highly ranked customer service banks with a great client relationship model that represents itself not only in Canada, across the North America and in different countries as well. So today's presentation, as Riley was mentioning, will be around how to set up everybody here who is arriving as an international student in Canada for success. We want to make sure that we provide the right kind of banking advice and the banking approach that international students must take in Canada when they arrive or before they even arrive here. So thanks for everybody again for joining for this important discussion, important conversation that is going to lead a great pathway for most of you who are going to come to Canada as international students and be more guided when you arrive here in that sense. So I'll start my presentation around just myself. My name again, Gurpreet Singh Broka. I'm the manager of customer experience at one of the local TD branches in Sudbury. And I have started my career in TD since 2017, as Riley mentioned. As myself was an international student, like many of you will be or are already, I think it is such a great career path that TD has offered is that it's an ever-evolving career that you can imagine when you're with TD. So really grateful for TD to giving an opportunity to somebody like me, who was also once a newcomer, once an international student in a remote community of Greater Sudbury back then, which is now a very diverse demographic right now, to give me a chance and to represent such an esteemed organization. So myself I'm the MCE currently with TD, and proudly representing again this session, which will include mainly about 6 topics. Because international students needs to focus on their studies, we are going to cater to the fact on what the banking needs and how to take care of your finances should be a priority. And we're going to segment it into 6 things. First, we're going to talk about your financial health, which is, as Riley mentioned in my intro, it is highly evident to say that, a good financial health leads to good mental health. And mental health is so important these days. So I think when you're already set up for success with your finances, you're catering to a great financial well-being or financial health, which is definitely helping in the mental well-being of yourself too. I'm also going to talk about some basic banking products that TD offers, and then we're going to move on to the importance of credit score, or what is a credit score if you're not aware. We're going to also talk about some budgeting topics, which is usually a very hot topic in terms of how to go about budgeting, how to find some tips and hints, and what to do best, what to not do. So we're going to talk about those do's and don'ts. Then we're going to focus on our TD International GIC Program, which is an amazing program offered by TD across the globe to any international student that arrives or wants to come to Canada through that program, and we can talk about the benefits that it offers. We are also going to chat about TD International Student Banking Package, which is one of the, again, highly important as well as a very attractive package for the newcomers and international students who are thinking to come to Canada or already arrived in Canada, when they can enroll, how they can enroll. We're going to talk about more of the ins and outs on that particular discussion. So let's give it a kick and start about the first topic, which is financial health. So why does it matter, right? It's mainly because you're having finances under control and understanding the basic financial concepts. They can go a long way, because from day to day, when you're talking about expenses, you're talking about money coming in, the influx of the money as well as the outflow. You need to make sure you're managing it properly so that in case an emergency arrives, in case an unexpected expense comes in the place, that you have enough of your finances or your day-to-day expenses in control to offer some support during those vulnerable times that you may face in life, because life is all full of ups and downs and things can happen. So managing your day-to-day expenses is definitely going to be a key factor in terms of how your financial health remains and how, again, it leads to a good mental well-being. We also would like to say, as international students, we must always incentivize ourselves from taking those banking offers or those attractive packages that banks offer. And especially at TD, when we're going to talk about the TD International Student Package, it has a very holistic approach from setting you up with a general bank account to credit card to building credit, and then setting you up for future for a great financial future for yourself in Canada by offering you support throughout your life stages as it evolves. So I think financial health, again, it matters a lot because it is just those basic understandings of those concepts, those finances to be under control, those little bit of those tidbits that you need, tips and hints that our financial advisors, our personal banking associates at our branches, which is more than 1,000 across the country, can support you with that constructed advice, that customized and personalized opinions and suggestions about how to handle your finances. I think that advice is truly important for us to develop a great financial health and eventually a great well-being of mental health as well. And some of you might, wonder, when I was talking about setting you up from the beginning to the many life stages, how is the beginning? The beginning is with basic banking products. How are they used, right? So those basic banking products, and they could be called different names in your country where you're coming from. For example, a checking account back in the country that I came from was called a current account, and savings account and credit card. So there's different features with all these kinds of accounts, but we're going to just talk about what each of them basically does, because there could be different terminologies behind them. But again, what is a checking account? What is a savings account? What is a credit card? It's highly important to know those basic fundamentals that can set you up for success. So when we're talking about a checking account is essentially an account that is used for day-to-day needs, for daily transactions. And we were talking about day-to-day expenses. So if you're buying, groceries, you're paying your bills, you're buying a major item for your household expenses, you're making a purchase, you're traveling, you want to transfer money to somebody, or you're essentially needing your daily withdrawals and deposits for expenditures. Checking account is an account that helps you with those day-to-day needs that can come in on unexpected times, as well as which you already may expect, such as bills. Whereas on the same side, as we say about, saving something on the side, saving something for an emergency as an emergency fund, it is quite evident that, if you keep everything in one pocket, it's hard to retain that funds in there, because you always have have an eye on that pool of funds that, I can just deep dive into it and try to take money and I'll save later. So it's quite important for you to set up a checking account, and not only that, also a savings account along with it that can go hand in hand, because this is an account that can be used to deposit extra money that you can earn even interest on, and help you save for future, for times when you would need it the most. We're going to talk about what is a credit card, and a credit card actually allows you to pay for similar things, such as similar purchases that you can, pay back at the end of each billing cycle. It comes with its own credit limit. So many credit cards start with a $500 credit limit up to $5,000, $50,000, $10,000, $15,000, depending on the eligibility of the user. But again, what is a credit card is you're essentially basically using that card to not pay from it from your pocket, for that expense from your pocket at that moment, but instead you get some grace period, some time, which is typically around 21 days for some credit cards, and it could be different for different cards. But that gives you that, that time, that room, that space to accommodate your other expenses and budget accordingly to what is a priority and needs to be spent first. And then it allows you to do that expense as well as save, as well as do the second expense that you wanted to do at that moment. So it really helps you to cater your needs accordingly. And also the biggest feature with the credit card is it most of the times comes with great perks and incentives for you to enjoy during that time frame that you're using it, because it's a service you're getting from a bank. It's a service you're getting to build your credit. It's a service you're getting to actually help you, showcase, how much trustworthiness can an institution, can a bank put in you in terms of using or lending you money or giving you credit access at that moment. So it is a really great tool for you to begin with and to understand and to, act responsibly when you're talking about a credit card, or when you're using a credit card with even just your family, friends, or just using by yourself. And what it leads to is what I was talking about was a credit score. So what is a credit score and why does it matter? Well, a credit score is actually a number that helps you determine what is your credit worthiness. And as I said, if somebody's lending you money, how do you trust that, that this person I need to pay back to you, or how does that person trust you that you're going to pay them back within time? It's that score, that number that determines how much the trustworthiness or the credit worthiness of a user is on paper. And these are the calculations, these are the reports that are generated when you're talking about buying a car, buying a house, and maybe down the road making some bigger expenses and taking some big decisions, big financial decisions of your life. So certainly those things will come in place, but then the credit score is built when it's talking about, how you're using small little things like, using a basic credit card. How do you pay your bills on time? How do you make a loan payment on time? And are you big time, spender, or are you a big time saver? Or are you using more than 50% of your credit card? Or are you using less than 50% of your credit card? So many things will cater towards building a credit score. And again, one of those things would be the length of time you're holding a credit, and the length of time you're putting that credit back in its place where it came from, so that you can show your credit worthiness and determine how good of a credit score you can make. The second one is, why does it matter, right? So when I was talking about it, financial institutions will look at your credit score in determining how much money they can lend you, and making that decision easier for them to understand that, okay, if you are having a 750 credit score or 800 credit score or 600 credit score, where would you lie on that scale from, a less credit worthiness to a more credit worthiness? And which will allow you to get maybe some pre-approvals from time to time, where, the bank will come in and say, you've been using amazing credit and you're managing it quite well. You're paying your bills in time. You're never behind. You're always making the full payment that you need to. So why don't we offer you a little bit of more support to help you with more of your bigger expenses that you may have in future, and providing you maybe higher credit limits or higher credit scores. So eventually all these things go hand in hand. And as I was talking to you earlier, one of the major items that helps you build that credit score is a credit card. And with those credit cards comes amazing and, like really worthy rewards and perks, such as redeeming cash back sometimes and using your card, and sometimes even using those reward points that you'll get to shop from a website from TD or different avenues. So there's different, for sure, the perks and rewards that do come with them. And then we're going to talk about budgeting tips and tools. So it's highly important you create a budget. And for you to create a budget, TD has offered you support through a tool, which is right on your, on your palm. It would be in your mobile phone. It's called the TD My Spend app. So the TD My Spend app helps you to create your spending as create a tracking of that in a bar graph, in a more of a customized method of understanding what you're spending, what you should be spending, what you have spent in the past, and how much are you forecasting for future, so that you can be well prepared for those things. And now then you can make a plan for it and have a creative wish list of such of the savings goals, of such of the expensive goals that you may have. So at the end of the day, this TD My Spend app is actually going to give you that support, that allowance to play around what your personal circumstance is and understand and punch in some numbers and see what you can really do, in terms of how your past has been in terms of using money, and create a good plan for it. And as I said, creating a budget is highly important. But why is it important? Is because you need to consider when you're coming in as an international student, you are sometimes getting a limited amount of hours to work. So when you're having a limited flow of money coming in, which is employment income, there's other options or avenues such as bursaries, scholarships, grants, allowances that you may get. So you may want to use those things very fruitfully to your benefit, to your incentivize, to maximize out of them because of certain things such as tuition fees, books, housing, groceries, food, transportation, bills, sometimes emergency expenses that may arise, and even for savings for future needs. And so basically, when you're having an influx of money, and as I said, the outflow, you need to cater to yourself how to create a budget. How much am I spending? How much am I saving? What do I keep in my saving regularly? And how do I create a pattern? And to help you create that pattern, we also have a TD student budget calculator, as well as the TD My Spend app that will allow you to do all that right from your cell phone. And my next, topic would be, again, as I mentioned, we will be talking about a TD International Student GIC Program. So the TD International Student GIC Program allows all the international students to fulfill their student direct stream eligibility requirements by using, the pre-arrival as well as the post-arrival measures that TD has put in place to help you support in your journey right from the beginning, from your home country to coming to Canada and settling up for success. So how do you do that? When you're pre-arriving, you're in your home country, what do? All you do is you submit your application online by going on the website for TD and opening a TD student checking account and a TD International Student GIC. During that phase, you will be asked for some proofs, some documentation, which you will be looking at when you're on those screens, based on what your eligibility comes out to be, because everybody's eligibility could come out differently. But majorly, it's about providing documents that can support you with your visa, with your study permit, proof of enrollment, and even a study permit you may have already gotten. And if you have a letter of support from an institution suggesting that you're coming in, things like that, you can submit with your application to help you build your student checking account and a TD International GIC. Next step, you whichever institution you're banking with at your home country, you need to transfer your funds from there to TD account by sending a first wire payment, which should be a minimum of 20,635 Canadian dollars, plus the incoming wire payment fee, which again TD will have, or other banks will also may have a discharge fee. So you're needing to talk to your bank about what are the cheapest or the least expensive methods for you to send you that first wire payment that is according to the Government of Canada guidelines, will be able to meet your eligibility of having at least 20,635 Canadian dollars in already that TD account that you set up ready for you. And then that eventually what it'll do is TD will help you set it up into a TD International Student GIC once that wire payment is received. And that particular student GIC also gives you some bonus interest rates at times. So again, as I would suggest, this is the minimum threshold. It has to be a minimum of this. There is no maximum, but again, the minimum should be as per the Government of Canada guidelines, and you must complete that before you actually arrive. So these are the basic pre-arrival steps that you must do. So again, submit your application online to open this TD checking account, as well as to have a TD International Student GIC. Transfer your funds, which should be minimum $20,635 Canadian, plus the incoming wire fee, if any. And then funding your TD Student GIC will be on TD once that money arrives. So you don't need to worry about that. We will help you. What you need to do when you come in here is to access that money to allow you to get that source of funds to allow you with their their immediate settling needs as well as other needs. You need to visit a TD branch locally. We are having more than 1,000 branches across the country in Canada. Once you arrive in here, book your appointment. You can do it online, again, through your phone app or through actually going on the website and just confirming your identity, checking your documents such as a passport, signing the required documents, and activating your bank accounts accordingly. And then again, an amazing package, one of the best, I would say the best sellers or the most attractive in the market is at the moment the TD International Student Banking Package. It provides you an amazing up to $850 in Canadian dollar value when you're looking at that package altogether. And it is quite a bit of a bundle in terms of an holistic approach, what you need to do as a student. As I was talking about, set up a checking account, set up a savings, set up a credit card. It is going to do all of that for you in that one package. What it includes is TD Student Checking Account, which offers you at a no cost, unlimited transactions in that checking account, and you won't be paying a fee until you actually graduate. The TD Cashback Visa offers you, the credit card support with a minimum of $500 credit limit approval up to your eligibility. And again, you don't have to pay an annual fee for this, just the interest rate of 19.99%. However, while you're spending and using this card, you're making some, interest back on your expenses too. So about 1% on your expenses that you spend on your groceries, reoccurring bill payments, or gas expenses, if you're filling up in your car, you can actually redeem that 1% of your transactions to pay your cashback dollars towards your credit card bill. You also have a 0.5%, gaining back eventually anytime you're using it towards any transaction. So it's an amazing credit card to start with. And then we also offer you a TD Everyday Savings Account with interest rates that are amazing in the market, and also offering you a $0 bank account in that savings account, way as well. So what you're doing is you're not setting up this for any cost as well. You're saving yourself any setup cost because it's costing you $0 to set it up. You may also become eligible for a $50 Amazon gift card when you bundle every single product that we mentioned. There may be some conditions that apply depending on the requirements you need to fulfill for a student checking, this cashback visa, the savings account, which we can elaborate once we reach out to the advisor in the appointment at the TD Bank branch when you go and see them. But those advisors are well prepared for you to be driven up to your success and to have your journey, give it a good head start. So I would suggest you talk to the financial advisor, the personal banking associate you're going to see at TD Bank, and talk about this TD International Student Banking Package, because it's also offer you up to $360 when you're using TD Global Money Transfer feature, and when you can especially get unlimited transfer rebates for up to 12 months under that same package. So again, all in all, a very holistic, very amazing package, and a one-stop solution for you when you're looking into TD International Student Banking packages. And with that, I will definitely take some questions towards the end of this presentation, but thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, CanadaVisa, and thank you to all the attendees for listening to me and for giving TD and myself, Gurpreet Singh Broka, a chance to represent and share a bit of the presentation and some of my story as well. Thank you.
Apologies, my mic was off. Hi, everyone. So my name is Olivia Cohen, and I am head of immigration strategy at CanadaVisa.com, as well as an immigration lawyer. And now we're going to move on to talking about how to study in Canada as an international student. And we are going to go over selecting your study program, applying for your study permit, and then finally arriving in Canada before we move on to the questions phase. So let's start off with selecting your study program. There are a variety of pathways in post-secondary education in Canada, and high level, you will be choosing between vocational programs that are geared towards professions like engineering and nursing, as well as academic programs that focus more on domains of knowledge like history or math. And you will also encounter two different types of higher education institutions. There are universities and there are colleges. Universities offer more traditional academic programs and some vocational programs, while colleges mainly offer vocational programs, including skilled trades. So in terms of universities and the lengths of programs available, typically undergraduate programs are around 4 years in length, and graduate programs range from 1 to 2 years or even 4 years. And at colleges, the programs are typically shorter, around 2 years for associate's degrees. There are different trade programs that can lead to apprenticeships and other shorter certificates. Ultimately, the type and length of your program will help determine what kind of postgraduate work permit that you will be eligible for after completing your program. So, for example, programs less than 8 months are not eligible for a postgraduate work permit, PGWP. Programs that are longer than 8 months but less than 2 years, your PGWP will be the same length as your program of study. And then finally, programs that are 2 years or longer or any master's programs are eligible for a 3-year PGWP. It's also important to note that regardless of the length that you would be eligible for, you will only be issued your PGWP for the duration of your passport. So make sure to check when it is expiring. So once you've figured out what general type of program you want to pursue, you should turn to the government's list of designated learning institutions, DLIs. Study permits are limited to special approved programs known as designated learning institutions, and you can see the list of DLIs by province on the Government of Canada website. So when you have your preferred type of program in mind, look at the list of DLIs, determine which schools offer programs that you would be interested in, and then look at their instructions for how to apply. It's important to note that application processes really vary for each school. For example, applications require transcripts from your past education. They may also require letters of reference, personal essays, and also application fees, which can normally be around a few $100s Canadian. So it is also important that you understand the timeline for your applications, as they can also vary widely between schools. Some schools have December deadlines for the fall, other schools have spring deadlines. So, make sure to take a look at your exact program when you're applying. Finally, when you submit your application for your selected program, institutions will notify you whether they accept or reject your application. And then once you have your acceptance letter from a designated learning institution in hand, you will be almost ready to apply for your study permit. But first, you will have to receive something new, which is called a provincial attestation letter, PAL. So unless you meet one of the exceptions, and we'll go over that a bit later. But exceptions, for example, include master's and PhD students who do not require a PAL. So the provincial attestation letter, what is it? It confirms that you have been designated a space to study in a province now that there are limits on the number of of study permits by province. How do you get this PAL? So if you are studying outside of Quebec, you can contact your school directly to find out how to apply for one. But typically after you are accepted into your program and pay your tuition fees, the school will actually request the PAL on your behalf and email it to you in addition to your letter of acceptance. If you are studying in Quebec, you will need something called a Quebec Acceptance Certificate, CAQ, issued by the Government of Quebec. And you can also contact your school directly to find out how to apply for your CAQ. And it is important to note that your CAQ can actually act as your provincial attestation letter, as long as it states a special sentence confirming that the applicant has a place in Quebec's share of the distribution of study permit applications in the province. So finally, once you have that provincial attestation letter, you have your letter of acceptance, you are in a position to apply for your study permit. And so now let's talk a little bit about what that study permit application looks like. So most international students will have to apply for their study permit online from outside Canada before they enter the country. There are special circumstances where you can apply for your study permit directly at a port of entry. For example, if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident or green card holder of the US. But most applicants will have to apply online through the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada portal. As part of your study permit application, you are going to need a copy of your acceptance letter, a copy of your provincial attestation letter, which we just went over, a copy of your passport and other travel documents, and photos, government processing fees that must be paid by credit card or debit card. You also must pay biometrics fees. And finally, proof of financial support for your studies. If your study program is less than 1 year, you need to show proof of financial support for the duration of your studies. And if it is 1 year or longer, only for the first year of your studies. I want to note that after you submit the application, you will be issued a biometrics instruction letter instructing you to go to an official biometrics collection site to submit your biometrics. You may also be asked to provide a police clearance certificate or undergo a medical examination, but this will come after submitting the application itself. Now let's talk more about the financial support requirements. So they will ultimately depend on the number of accompanying family members, including the applicant themselves. So financial support changes each year based on the average cost of living, and you can always see the up-to-date financial support requirements on the IRCC website. The current financial support requirements for this year can be found on this table here. So as you can see, if you are coming alone, you must show that you have 20,635 Canadian dollars on top of your tuition fees. And this amount goes up for each accompanying family member. You will be required to prove that you have access to these funds as part of your study permit application, again, in addition to your tuition fees. And you can prove this in different ways, such as having a Canadian bank account in your name if you've already transferred money to Canada, or proof of a guaranteed investment certificate, or a GIC, as TD discussed earlier. So now we're going to quickly go over some of the changes, the recent changes that have gone on in the study permit space. So starting in 2024, IRCC imposed a cap on the total number of study permit applications with the aim of issuing a certain amount of applications or actual permits per year. So this year, the permit number of applications that have been allocated amongst the provinces and territories are around 550,000. And the aim is to have around 290,000 approved study permits for 2024. And these numbers will be adjusted for 2025 and every year after. IRCC also changed rules for spouses and common law partners that are looking to obtain spousal open work permits. So when you are applying after the recent change, which occurred on April 30th of this year, your spouse or common law partner may only be eligible for an open work permit if you are, or the applicant is in a master's or doctoral program, so a graduate level program, if they're part of an eligible pilot program, or if they are studying in certain eligible professional degree programs at universities, for example, a Doctor of Medicine, a pharmaceutical degree, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, a Bachelor of Education. There is a list of specific university programs that are would allow a spouse or a common law partner to apply for that open work permit. If they are eligible, they will be eligible for a work permit for the duration of your study permit. The open work permit would allow your spouse or your common law partner to work for any employer in Canada with a few exceptions. So finally, we have gone over the general study permit process for most study permit applicants, but there is also a special pathway called the Student Direct Stream, SDS, and this allows for faster processing times of study permits within 20 calendar days instead of processing times of 9 weeks for non-student direct stream applications. Note that these processing times change weekly. As you can see, last week they were at 13 weeks and now they're at 9 weeks for non-SDS stream applicants. So make sure to check the most up-to-date processing times on the IRCC website. So in terms of this student direct stream, who's eligible? So in order to be eligible for SDS, you must be a resident and currently living in one of the countries on the slide here. So for example, from Brazil, from Peru, from the Philippines, from India. And so these are the list of eligible countries. And beyond this list of eligible countries, you also have to meet additional study permit requirements. This includes obtaining a guaranteed investment certificate for at least 20,635 Canadian. That's the amount for someone who is coming alone and not with accompanying family members. And you must provide proof of this guaranteed investment certificate in your SDS study permit application. You also need to show confirmation for an upfront medical exam, show that you've covered your travel costs, show that you've paid your tuition fees for your first year of study, provide language test results, and finally submit your application at a visa application center. So once you receive the approval of your study permit, you would then receive a letter of introduction along with your temporary resident visa, which you will present to an officer upon arriving in Canada so that they can issue you your study permit once you're arriving. So if you don't know what program you want to pursue just yet, start by researching and selecting a program at a designated learning institution. If you already have an acceptance letter and a provincial attestation letter, you can go ahead and apply for your study permit right away. You can do the application yourself. If you want help, note that you are only allowed to use authorized representatives like a regulated consultant or an immigration lawyer. And you can also always visit the CanadaVisa forum to discuss and ask questions to fellow aspiring international students and find more information on our website, CanadaVisa.com. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention and we'll move on to the questions phase.
Great. Thanks so much, Olivia. And also, thank you, Gurpreet. We really appreciate you guys, spending the time to present to our audience, to learn about banking and how immigration may affect your journey to Canada. So once again, thank you so much. We're going to move to the question and answer portion of this webinar for the last 15 minutes-ish. We got some great questions that came in by email, that came in from the sign-up form, and that came in through chat. So we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. And we're going to try to do an equal split between banking and immigration questions. To start with the first question, this came in by email from Javeria, and I think it's a banking question, so I'll ask you, Gurpreet. Javeria asks, what should I budget for in terms of cost for moving to Canada?
For sure. Thanks for the question. And I think it's a very general question that many of you may have. And so thanks for the opportunity. What do you want to budget? When you're coming into Canada, you're looking into mainly at least your living expenses, your household expenses. So you want to make sure that you have a budget and a plan ready for your rent, for your housing, for your immediate transportation that you would need textbooks, you need tuition costs to be covered, if any others, that they may be on top of your, the fees that you've paid. There may be sometimes ancillary costs that you may have, especially when you're looking at transportation. Different cities may have different dynamics. So there may be public transport, but there may not be public transport as much as being available in a remote or a rural community. So as in speaking of from my own perspective, in Sudbury, we have one bus that comes around in 1 hour. So do you need to get to somewhere quicker? You may have to pay a little bit more because you want to be there at your first job interview and be there for your first session at classroom in time. So you need to budget for your daily day-to-day expenses, especially for the initial months or so. And as I said earlier in my presentation, we do have the TD My Spend app that helps you budget that and then creates you a plan which is customized to your situation. So I really highly recommend for you to use that TD My Spend app to budget for any of these similar costs that you may have in your situation.
Great. Thanks, Gurpreet. And I just want to remind everyone in chat, because I saw a question come up. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out the slides in an email that will go out tomorrow. So if there's a section of this webinar you want to revisit and pay more attention to, just look out for an email that'll be in your inbox tomorrow with the slides and the recording for the webinar. But thank you, Gurpreet, so much for that. Olivia, an immigration question came in by email from Toby. And the question was, if my visa has been rejected previously, how do I know how to adapt to ensure it isn't rejected again?
Yeah, thanks. So this is a great question. And my initial response is the first thing you want to do is submit an online request for GCMS notes, Global Case Management System notes. If you Google GCMS, you'll be able to find access how to submit those that request for those notes. And once you receive the GCMS notes, they can take a few weeks, up to a month, and they typically provide a detailed breakdown of the visa officer's refusal reasons for your first study permit. And then you can build your new application trying to really address those refusal reasons and strengthen your application to make sure that those concerns are addressed. That said, of course, there's always the risk of refusal, and so there is no true way to ensure approval, but those GCMS notes can really help understand why it was refused in the first place.
Right. Sounds good. Thanks, Olivia. Gurpreet, a banking question came in from Cassandra. And what is the recommended credit card for international students?
Well, you know what? The most exciting thing about credit card is that TD offers you a wide range of, exclusive perks and benefits with multiple options of credit cards. However, the most fan favorite one or the most attractive one for students, as well as when I talked about in my international student package, that TD offers, is the TD Cashback Visa card. What this card offers you is exciting, cashback rewards in terms of what you're spending. So if you're spending $100 on something, such as a grocery expense, or you're paying your reoccurring bill payments, which is, let's say, your cell phone bill that's coming out every month, and it's automatic payments. And if you're paying, for your gas expenses, for your fuel expenses when you're traveling, things like these will get you 1% back off your transactions. So if you're spending 100, you're basically spending 99 because you're going to get $1 back from TD minimum. And this comes at no cost to you. It is a $0 annual fee credit card. So without you spending anything, you're earning money while you're spending, and you're also budgeting, because this credit card allows you the 21 days grace period of time, which is the time you have for yourself to return that same money, to pay that same money back towards your credit card without incurring any interest cost to you. So as I said, many exciting rewards and benefits and perks included. And even regardless, even if you're not spending on groceries, gas, or these kind of expenses that I mentioned, you're spending on, you're grabbing a coffee from Tim Hortons, or you're going to a Starbucks store, or you're spending something on your tuition costs in a campus store, or you're spending something in your cafeteria. Things like these will still get you 0.5% off your transaction value back to your credit card cashback account, which you can redeem again to pay back your own credit card. So you're earning money while you're actually spending, and this is an exciting, fan favorite TD credit card. So I highly recommend this. But if you're a shopper and you're liking to redeem your points for shopping, merchandise, for different swag and different kind of articles that you want to buy. And if you're a shopper, as I said, we also have a TD Rewards Visa card, which comes with its own perks to redeem certain points for certain commodities that you can get it delivered to your house address. So again, my fan favorite and people's fan favorite at this time, included in the TD International Student Package, is the TD Cashback Visa card for sure.
Right, awesome. And on the topic of credit, Aminat asks, because credit is such an important part of life in Canada, how can I build credit as a newcomer to Canada?
The simple mantra for this is make sure you're paying your bills on time. Making sure anything you're owing to anybody, to an organization, to an agency, to an institution, financial institution, you're paying that money back because it's a money lent to you. It is that credit worthiness that you need to prove, and how you prove that is when you have this opportunity through this one credit card that you get with TD or other banks. You can actually make sure that within the 21 days grace period, or during your statement time, when you get a statement delivered to your house address or via email or online, you're making sure you're not behind your payments. So if your due date is coming on the 31st, you make sure that you pay that by the 31st or on the 31st to avoid any interest to you, but also to create a history and a pattern that you're always in time and you're committing to what your agreements are and certain things. And going down the road in future, we will have Canada government supporting also the tenants. So if you're coming in and becoming a tenant at a place, the tenancy agreement that you'll be doing, but also cater towards that credit score down the road in future, which means you need to make sure when you're paying your rent in time and your other expenses in time, they're all catering towards that, building that number, building that credit report for you and a history and a pattern that will allow you to create more credit worthiness and showcase that, now I'm ready to buy a car, now I'm ready to buy a house down the road, because I have built such a history behind me, such a legacy, that I'm always paying my things back when I'm borrowing it from institutions. So always stay on time, stay on top of these things, because they do come with exciting rewards and perks, but you don't want to fall into a trap where unfortunately you incur an interest cost, or make a report that says you're behind a payment and you did not pay back your commitment. So again, staying on top of your credit card, staying on top of your loans, your lines of credits, anything that you're borrowing is the key for sure for credit score.
All right, thank you so much, Gurpreet. Olivia, this question came in through the sign-up form by George Brown. I think it's a common question that we get a lot from study permit holders, but is a study permit holder allowed to engage in part-time work?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, you can work as an international student in Canada only if your study permit itself lists a condition at the bottom saying that you are allowed to work on or off campus. And so if you have that condition on your study permit, then the question becomes, how much can you work? What kind of work can you do? So in terms of on-campus work, you can work as many hours as you want during the school year, in addition to working off campus. So on-campus work has a bit of its own rules. Off-campus work is quite regulated. So during regular school terms or semesters, you can only work up to 20 hours per week. You can work more than one job in order to get to this number of hours, as long as you continue to meet the conditions of your study permit, as that's the most important thing. So again, during the regular school terms or semesters, up to 20 hours per week. During scheduled breaks, you can actually work full-time, unlimited number of hours, as such as on winter and summer holidays or reading weeks. But again, you must be a full-time student before and after the break in order to qualify for that full-time exception during breaks.
Great, thanks, Olivia. Anissa asked, and this question is for Gurpreet, what is the best way of transferring funds to and from overseas?
Thanks, Alisa, for the question. I would suggest highly, again, as I was talking towards the tail end of my presentation about the TD International Student Package. In our package, we include a TD Global Money Transfer feature, which is actually an exciting and an amazing feature, allowing you to transfer money to across 200 countries around the globe. And what this feature does is that you can select just right from your TD mobile app any country that you want to spend, send the money to within this 200 and more. Select it, put in your dollar value that you want to send, or even if you want to send in the money that is in the local currency there, you can choose and get some quotations and, see an expected amount that you would be needing to send that funds. This turnaround time, depending on the type of solution you're using and which country you're choosing, is offered through Western Union as well as TDs and collaboration with Visa as well. That there is different options where you can have the cash be collected at the destination or be deposited directly into the bank account into the destination country. And or also have a return time from anywhere as little as 2 to 4 hours to up to 48 to 72 hours, depending on where it's going, how much you're sending, and through which particular feature you're using. But it's all, again, right starting from the TD Global Money Transfer option. But as I also was saying, sometimes you need more of a advice. Sometimes you're looking for holistic advice from somebody who's in person supporting you with those decisions. And if in case you're not looking for something that's online, but you need personalized advice, you can walk into our TD branches, more than 1,000 in Canada, available almost in every other city, and talk about TD wire payments. And we can help you suggest with the different wire transfer options where we can help you with the transferring of funds for overseas. And we're highly recommending that you use the TD Global Transfer, because you don't have to walk to a branch, you don't have to spend to come. You actually can save while you're sitting on your couch watching a movie and sending money to Sri Lanka or Guyana, who knows, right? So you can definitely be at your ease and use that feature, TD Global Money Transfer.
Awesome. Olivia, a question came in for you from Simon. How can I find job opportunities as a student?
Yeah, great. So in terms of job opportunities, I would say that first start by looking at the Career Placement Center at your institution once you're starting your studies. You can also look around on job websites like Indeed, LinkedIn, and then of course networking. I would say that it kind of goes hand in hand. You should engage with those job specific networking opportunities, but also just join student associations and clubs to meet new people, and perhaps through those connections you'll find out about interesting job opportunities as well.
Great, thanks, Olivia. Bolivie asks, and this is a question for Gurpreet, how can TD help me save for my first home in Canada?
A very common question and an exciting question that excites me all the time is how do you want to save for the first home? Because it would be your dream first home in Canada. And, to help you cater to that particular dream home, I would suggest to come and talk to our financial advisors, talk to our personal banking associates and personal bankers to help you build that plan and be that goal builder for you. We have a platform that we use that's called the TD Goal Builder that helps you create like a successful journey pattern where it tells you where you're at to where you want to be and how much time you would want to take to achieve that goal, to achieve that dream. So there's different products that we offer at TD, such as a tax-free savings account, a first home savings account, an exciting one, as well as the retirement savings fund, which you can use towards the first-time home buyers withdrawal program, which we can talk more about when you come in and talk to our advisors into one of our local TD branches. But again, you can definitely save through none of these features only. You can have many other features as well. But you know what? The most exciting, the most attractive ones are the tax-free savings accounts, the first home savings account, as well as the retirement savings plan. So talk about these three minimum, at least, to your TD advisor. And I'm sure that we're going to get you a holistic approach and how to tackle that and how to start you with those saving habits towards your first dream home in Canada. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And then I guess the last question came from Ira, and then we'll wrap up the webinar. And this is for Gurpreet again. How do I open my first Canadian bank accounts?
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Yeah, the question is, how do I open my first Canadian bank account? Or maybe how do I go about opening it?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're looking at opening a bank account, you can actually go online and do this, but we definitely welcome you to the branches, book an appointment with one of our personal banking associates, sit down. But you do need some documents to bring in. So if you're coming in as an international student, we need you to bring in your passport or a Canadian photo ID, such as, a driver's license, if you get one in Canada, and also bring in your proof of study permit that you would have obtained from IRCC. And also, in some cases, when you're looking into credit, depending on your age and types of credit requirements, we may also need your proof of enrollment as well to basically input this in our system that you're enrolled in this institution for this time period. And then you can enjoy the TD student checking account features, the cashback rewards, as well as, the exciting up to $850 of TD International Student Banking Package. It's very easy. It's just one appointment, one conversation, not more than 30 minutes. But getting you setting up for success through the trusted advice, through personalized personal banking associates at all our branches available in Canada.
Great, thank you so much, Gurpreet. Yeah, and that wraps up our webinar for today. I want to give a sincere thank you from CanadaVisa and our audience to Gurpreet for spending the time with us today to walk us through banking advice for international students. And Olivia, thank you so much for presenting on the immigration side. I think we got a pretty holistic picture here of what life in Canada will look like on your study permit. Once again, thank you so much, presenters. A bit of logistics. We will be sending out the webinar recording and slides of this webinar tomorrow. So check your email inbox and you'll receive an email with a link to the slides and a link to the webinar recording. If there's any portion of the webinar you want to rewatch, we invite you to do so there. And with that being said, we're going to close this webinar. Thank you once again, and I wish everyone a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks.